only get better, can't they? Welcome to this evening's meeting of the Planning Committee. I am Councillor Ellis Brown and I will be chairing this evening's meeting. I shall be supported by the Vice Chair, Councillor van der Boer, and the professional officers on my left and right. Thank you for attending. May I remind members of the public, this is not a public meeting. It is open to the public and a meeting in which you are present. Therefore, it is not a forum for public to ask questions or challenge the points raised during the debate by officers or members of the committee. You must not engage with the members or call out during the meeting. If you have requested to speak, when invited to do so, please keep to your allotted time. Your comments must be material in planning terms to the decision we are considering. We're not expecting a fire drill this evening, so should you hear the alarm, please make your way to the nearest exit, which are at the two corners rear of the chamber, and we actually meet outside the Lind Cross Public House. May I also ask council members and members of the public to please switch your mobile phones to silent or turn them off. And when speaking, please ensure your microphone is turned on, and when you've finished, please turn it off. I would also remind everyone here to please show respect to each other throughout the meeting. When members are voting, make sure that your arm is clearly raised so that we can accurately capture the vote. Before we proceed, could the officers here this evening please introduce themselves, starting with the officers on my right.
Claire Brown, Principal Planning Solicitor.
Melissa Stallard, Democratic Services Officer.
Thank you. Apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence, and who are the substitutes? Thank you.
Yes, we do. Councillor Paul Clark sent his apologies. Councillor Richard Landernew is substituting for him. Councillor Roger Knowles sent his apologies, and Councillor Tricia Utan is substituting.
Thank you very much. We have two sets of minutes. Do we accept these as true reflection of the meetings held on the 13th and 20th of May? All those in favour? Agreed. Agreed. Okay, thank you. Those are then agreed. Declarations of members' interest. Councillor Mercer.
Thank you, Chair. The item about the proposed park and ride space. I am the Cabinet member with responsibility for the project that has stimulated this planning application for environmental health, recycling and waste, and therefore I will not speak or vote on that particular matter, though I do, of course, support it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Any declarations? No? Okay. I have one announcement this evening. You will notice that DC 240204 is shown on the agenda, but this has been withdrawn and has been deferred to a later date. I'd like to also remind members that if an application under consideration is within your ward, you may comment, but you will not be able to vote. This means Councillor van der Boer and Councillor Vickers, you will not be able to vote on the agenda item DC 250430. Thank you. There are no appeals this evening, so moving on to item number 6, which is DC 241881, Roundabout Place, Common Hill, West Chiltington. Please could the officer present the application to committee? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this application seeks full planning permission for the erection of a detached dwelling and detached single garage. There has been an addendum circulated which advises that condition 4, as contained within section 7 of the committee report, is to be omitted. This condition related to rainwater harvesting and is no longer required due to the requirements of condition 3, which relates to a Grampian style condition to either access the snow scheme or a bespoke site-specific water neutrality strategy, which would be discharged by condition. So the list of conditions have been updated as part of the addendum as shown at section 2.3. So the application site, as defined by the red line shown here, forms the front garden to Roundabout Place, which is located within the residential area comprising West Chiltington Common. The surroundings are characterised by detached dwellings sited within generous plots, with the build pattern consisting of buildings set back from the highway frontage. As shown here, the application site is located within the West Chiltington Lanes conservation area, which is defined by the blue dash line there. And as previously stated, it's also within the built-up area boundary. The site plan here shows the proposed dwelling positioned centrally within the plot, with the detached garage positioned to the north and set back from the front elevation. A driveway and turning head is to be provided to the western corner, and amenity space would be provided to the north and south, with the existing landscaping retained around the boundaries. So here are the floor and elevation plans of the proposed dwelling at the bottom and the detached single garage at the top. The street scene and site section plan is shown here, and these show the relationship of the proposed dwelling with the neighbouring properties. The overall design is considered to be appropriately reflective of local vernacular, and it is acknowledged that there have been some concerns raised by the Conservation Officer in respect of impact on the conservation area, but following amendments to the design, it's considered that the impact to it would be neutral. So here are the site photos showing the mature landscaping at the front, as well as the relationship with the nearby properties. So the proposed development would result in one dwelling within the built-up area, where the principle of development is acceptable. It is acknowledged that concerns have been raised by the Conservation Officer. However, the level of harm is considered to be less than substantial and to the lower end of the scale. So while the proposal would not enhance the conservation area, the level of harm identified is considered to be modest and would not outweigh the benefits arising from the development in terms of the housing supply. The proposed development would not result in harm to the amenities of neighbouring properties or users of land, nor the function and safety of the public highway. As advised, a Grampian condition is recommended to address water neutrality, where this is considered acceptable and would be dealt with at a discharge stage. So for these reasons, the proposal is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions as outlined in section 2.3 of that addendum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Invite the first of the public speakers this evening, and that is Dr. Stephen Pike. And you have 3 minutes.
So good afternoon. Can you hear okay? Yes, okay. Okay, thank you. Only got a short period of time. So the West Chiltern Lanes Conservation Area was implemented by the Planning Committee to protect against overdevelopment around the Wells cottages by further inappropriate infill development like this application. Please uphold this previous decision. Do not be fooled into believing this is a one-off application. It will set a precedent and flood of other applications. Roundabout's cottage is a Wells cottage, a non-designated heritage asset protected by Policy 34 of the HDPF. New developments must retain and improve the setting, including views and trees and landscape features, and make a positive contribution to the character of the area. Building a modern house directly in front of a Wells cottage quite clearly does not fulfil Policy 34. This is strongly agreed with in the HDC Conservation Heritage Objection Report. The proposed building is an overdevelopment and out of character with the area and is contrary to Policy 32 and 33. A minor adjustment to the building plan should not be considered as having had any significant impact on this. This is an infill of an infill and would further dilute the character of the area made up by larger and smaller plots than was originally intended by RF Wells. I note that Roundabout Place is actually an infill development of Roundabout's cottage. It's one of two already infills. The position is in front of the building line, close to the road. This is nearer the road than the first failed application at next door Ling Place that had to be moved further back to gain planning approval from the planning inspector, who also considered the positioning of the modern houses across the road on the southwest side not to be relevant, as the character of the area was determined by the Wells cottages set back from the road on the northeast side. And this was agreed also in the Conservation Heritage Report. The planning report is therefore incorrect. The planning precedent is that the proposed building is too near the road. The planning report states the absence of a 5-year housing supply outweighs the loss of character in the lanes as a result of this development. This is incorrect, and there is no evidence for this. On the recent refused infill planning application under policy 32 and 33 at the nearby Green Shadow Wells Cottage, the planning inspector specifically stated the loss of character from overdevelopment in the lanes was more important than the 5-year building supply and 1 extra residence. This is consistent with 4 other refused infill developments in Westwood, Sunset and Spinney Lane, including April Cottage in Sunset Lane, where policy 34 was used for the first time in the new conservation area. I have been reviewing and commenting on infill development proposals in the West Chiltington Lanes for 16 years. And this is the first time that I've come to a planning meeting. This is because, unfortunately, this planning report is inaccurate and incomplete and should accordingly be given little weight. Please be consistent with previous planning decisions by you and the Planning Inspectorate and refuse planning permission under policy 32, 33 and importantly 34 of the HDPF and paragraph 135 of the NPPF, and support your own decision to introduce the West Chiltington Lanes conservation area. Thank you. Just one quick thing, you've got a picture up there, at the top right, you'll see some silver birch trees in the middle of the garden there, and you'll see them also by the gate to the left. They were removed prior to the planning application. They should have had planning consent. It didn't come here. It's a material thing. It's certainly against policy 34 of improving the
Sorry,
landscape.
could I ask you to bring your comments to conclusion? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
John? Okay, could I invite Roy Fowler, please? And you have 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
Right, good afternoon. I'll try and be brief, but I realise this is going to be an exercise in futility. My objections are based on 3 main subjects. First of all, precedent. Para 6.5 in the Planning Committee report tells me that for Ling Common Place, which was the subject of a previous planning application, can be compared with the application at the moment under consideration. There is no comparison. 4 Ling Common Place is a bungalow. I live in Roundabout Cottage, which will be completely overlooked by this new development, which is going to be a 2-storey house. There's no comparison. Just excuse me while I get my thoughts together. Para 6.11 says the site lies within the West Chiltington Lanes conservation area. Yes, good. 6.12 says the council's conservation officer has commented on the proposed development and considers that the development would not contribute positively to the character of the conservation area. He doesn't like it. You turn the page and you see that he now considers there would be a less than substantial harm to the lower end of the scale. What on earth does that mean? It's just words, meaningless. What is the scale? What's the lower end of it? We don't know. So let's move on to loss of amenity. 6.20. That's para 6.20. It is not considered that the development will result in an unacceptable relationship with those nearest neighbours in terms of loss of light, obtrusive appearance, loss of privacy or noise. I beg to differ. It is obviously an obtrusive appearance. It obtrudes into our line of sight. This house is going to be 20, 30 metres away. We open our front door in the morning, they're looking straight into our garden. Sorry, I'm just gathering my thoughts here. The planning officer, paragraph 613, the planning officer has had an informal consultation with the council's conservation officer. Why was it informal, and were there any minutes taken? Paragraph 6.16 comments on the building is not experienced as visually intrusive from the street scene. Well, I can tell you it will be visually intrusive from my garden scene.
Sorry, could you bring your comments to a conclusion, please?
I will. Paragraph 620 is not considered that the development would result in an unacceptable relationship with those nearest neighbours. Well, it will. And that really is all I've got to say about it.
Okay,
Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Chris Barker, you have 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members, my name is Chris Barker, Managing Director of EC Planning, a local consultancy. This application is for a single 3-bedroom detached home, as you've heard, with associated landscaping, parking and the continued use of the existing access. It is materially different to the previous appeal proposal. While the site lies within the West Chilternton Lanes conservation area, it also sits within a defined settlement boundary, as shown by your officers. This makes it a highly sustainable location where development is supported in principle, and we believe the proposal is fully concordant with both national and local policy. This part of the West Chilternton is defined by generous plots, mature landscaping and low-density development. The proposal reflects this, following the historic pattern of gradual, well-designed infill. The new dwelling is modest in scale and sits comfortably within a generous, well-contained plot as set out in the officer's report. In terms of design, the dwelling has been carefully conceived to reflect the architectural language of the surrounding area. In particular, as you can see from the slides, it takes inspiration from Wells Cottage as locally characteristic buildings within the conservation area. Indeed, the scheme architect themselves lives in a Wells Cottage in East Preston and fully understands the architectural detailing of such proposals. While some concern has been raised around plot subdivision, it's important to stress that this scheme does not introduce harsh new boundaries or engineered access points. The existing access is retained and the planted frontage is preserved, maintaining fully the open and verdant character of the lane. We have taken a landscape-led approach, retaining and enhancing existing hedgerows and trees and introducing new planting where possible. This ensures no harm to the wider street scene or neighbouring amenity and brings additional ecological benefits. It is also important to note that the Council, as you're aware, is currently only able to demonstrate a 1-year supply of deliverable housing land. This represents the most significant shortfall in recent years and carries substantial weight in the decision-making process and is weighed in the public benefits of the scheme. In this context, the provision of a new family home in a sustainable location should be supported, particularly where no adverse impact is identified. The proposal has been reviewed by your officers and found to cause no material harm to the character of the appearance of the conservation area. It is supported by statutory consultees about access, highways, drainage, trees, biodiversity and water neutrality. In summary, this proposal represents a sensitive and well-considered addition to the village, delivering a high-quality new home that responds positively to its historic context, without generating any adverse impacts or setting a precedent. Accordingly, we fully support the planning officer's recommendation for approval and I respectfully urge members to grant permission this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before moving on to the ward councillor, the officers will come back on some of the points raised during the presentations by the public and yourself. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So just to highlight There are a mix of plot sizes within the locality, and it's considered that the plot size as proposed is not disproportionate or out of character with how the wider context has developed and evolved over time. It is acknowledged that since the previous applications, the West Chiltington Lanes Conservation Area has been created and arisen, and that there is concern raised by the Conservation Officer in this regard. However, it is considered that harm is less than substantial, and the impact on the conservation area is neutral. So it is not considered to outweigh the benefits of a dwelling within the built-up area as recommended. Yes, it is located closer to the road, but it's not unusual or unexpected, and they are proposing landscaping that would help to mitigate some of the visual impact and provenance of the development. And it is considered that the distances between properties would be acceptable so that no harm would arise to the amenities of the nearby properties. Thanks.
Just to pick up on the point raised about the term less than substantial at the lower end of the scale, you might recall, I think that question has been raised at committee before by members. It's just a term in the National Planning Policy framework in terms of how you assess impact on heritage assets. So if it's less than substantial, you've still got a range in which it can be, and at the lower end of the scale means it's considered to be very, very little harm. So, obviously each impact on a listed building would need to be assessed in the context of what that level of harm is. So it might be a higher level of harm would obviously result in a recommendation for refusal. Obviously we've got very limited at the very low end of the scale here, which needs to then be weighed against the benefits of the scheme. Thank you. Oh, yeah. The chairman's just raised a point it might be helpful to respond to in terms of the informal consultation. Essentially, it was a discussion. So, we'd already consulted the Conservation Officer once, but we did seek amendments to seek to address their concerns. So rather than a long consultation period, we just had a discussion with them and asked them whether it addressed their concerns or not. And those discussions are reflective of the officer's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the ward councillor, Councillor Manton, and you have 5 minutes, councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Start your stopwatch. Just going through the Planning Committee report here, we talk about many of the original properties in this area are built on generous plots, resulting in low density of development because it is a conservation area. We've just had the comment that this plot size is considered reasonable, although if we look clearly on the plan there, it is the smallest plot size around. All the other plots are substantially bigger, and I do not subscribe to that particular comment. Current proposal does not reflect this, yes. The West Chiltington does lie within the conservation area that we made at this council. And I wonder why we make these conservation areas if we then don't defend them. I note that the HDC Conservation Officer under 3.3 has made an objection. Although he says there would be less than substantial harm at the lower end, it is still harm. And many of these less than substantial harms at the lower end become cumulative until they become a substantial harm. West Chiltington is a very unique village in our district, insofar as the Wells cottages and the number of trees and the plot sizes. These are all things that we went over when we decided to make it a conservation area, makes that particular village, and particularly that area at the lower end of Common Hill, important, and important to the other residents. However, just as we go through this in no particular, well, in the particular order that's written in the report, West Sussex County Council Highways at 3.7 advised that the width of the access is not sufficient to accommodate 2 passing vehicles, but they don't believe it would be a common occurrence. However, they advise automated gates. Now, if the committee do in fact approve this, I would like them to propose and adopt an additional condition to include those automated gates. West Chiltern Parish Council has lodged an objection. It is out of character for the conservation area. It is overdevelopment. The property would be forward of the building line. What is the point of a building line if we make exceptions and bring properties forward of the building line? Perhaps the officers could answer that question for me. It would be a precedent for another development. I note again, as you know, this is my hobby horse and I won't go into it again, but this particular application does not fulfil the requirements of clause 5. Going on to design and appearance, 6.9 policy 34 of the HDPF recognises that heritage assets are an irreplaceable source, and therefore we should manage them through positive management. And this does, if this was approved, this does not seem to me like being positive management by this council. There is much else. The two first speakers have covered a lot of this, and I fully support what they said, so there's no need to go into it again, but 6.10, 6.11, 6.12 are all very important here. The amendments that have been submitted following this coffee meeting in the corridor that wasn't recorded only goes some way to responding to this to the officers' concerns. Right, that's the same point. And I think, Mr. Chairman, that concludes, I think, all I can add at this point, other than I will say once again, West Chiltern is a cherished and valued, unique village in this district, and to go and build a modern property like this in the midst of a conservation area, I think it was, when he was Prince Charles, now King Charles, said, is going to become a carbuncle on our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Just briefly, councillors, I think it's important to recognise that the designation of a conservation area is not to prevent development at all. It's not a case that development cannot proceed if a conservation area has been designated. It does mean it needs to be carefully managed, and the fact that it is a conservation area and the appraisal that goes alongside it is a significant material consideration. So members need to have regard to that, but it doesn't just stop all development. So I'm sure members are aware of that, but I thought I'd point that out. In terms of cumulative impact that was mentioned, I think, and again, I'm sure you're all aware, we consider each application on its own merits. We are considering whether this scheme before us is acceptable, not this and a number of other schemes that we don't have. So we just need to consider whether this scheme before us is acceptable. I think that's it, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now open the debate to the members of the committee. Councillor Trollope, yes.
Thank you. Could the officers just briefly describe the question of precedence that's been alleged in other applications in this I did read the application and I just didn't see, I just a very, very brief summary of, have there been similar applications that have been approved or not approved within a reasonable amount of time in this area?
I think
Thank you.
what is clear really is the location plan that you can see on the screen. You can see a variety of different plot sizes, and you can see there has been some infills. It would always be the case that some are acceptable and some aren't, and I think each will have to be assessed on its own merits depending on the particular circumstances of the case. So you will always find some for and against. I think, you know, officers' view is what you see before you is a variety of plot sizes, recognising that some are larger than the plot proposed here, but some, in our view, are commensurate to it. So, you know, we feel there are a mix of sizes, and obviously officers have taken the view it's acceptable. But ultimately, that's your decision, members. Thank you.
Not sure who came first there, but Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, if the officers could just clarify for me, under paragraph 6.5, it is acknowledged that the current dwelling house proposed will be of a similar scale and siting to that of the refused dwelling house under DC 050583. There are a number of new material considerations which would be relevant as part of this current assessment. There have been a number of nearby infill plots. At what point do infill plots in infill plots become a significant harm on the conservation area or on the landscape? This particular plot is forward of the other building lines, so therefore it's going to be more prominent. Like you say, there's going to be more landscaping to mitigate that impact, and that the access is acceptable. I heard what the local member said about the gates. I'm not sure if that can be conditioned, but if you could just clarify for me what the material planning considerations are that are different from when the previous one was refused.
Yes, I think that it's noted that there have been applications that have been approved after that 2005, so the DC05 application, which have allowed for subdivision of plots within this locality. And it's considered that in this instance, you know, given this context, given the manner in which the development has come forward, there is a landscape-led approach. You know, they are seeking to reduce the prominence and of the development and reflect a vernacular that is recognised within the area, that the development is acceptable in that context, really.
Councillor Livingstone, yes, sorry.
Yeah, as I recall, these houses, I used to know them as sort of eyebrow cottages, the Wells cottages, quite distinctive, and they don't look anything like the proposed design which has been on the screen. So I noticed that some amendments have been made to it. Could we have some details of what those amendments were, please?
Yes, so there were some changes to the roof form. There were introduction of half hips to the roof. I believe there were some changes to the dormers as well. I mean, obviously this is seeking to have a contemporary style and is not a exact replica of a Wells cottage, but it is taking architectural features and characteristics of those properties and seeking to provide a design that fits in within the character of that and the locality.
Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just clarify, although the Conservation Officer feels this design is better, does he or she still object or not?
Yes, they still have raised concerns with the design and the impact on the conservation area, but they are of the view that it is less than substantial as we've discussed, but they do still have concerns about it.
Councillor Franklin.
Thank you, Chair. There was a question raised a couple of times by one of the speakers regarding adherence to policy 34 of NPPF. We could just do with some help, maybe others could, with what that meant and what was the relevance of that policy.
I think it's policy 34 of our local plan, so the district planning framework, and that policy specifically relates to heritage assets within the district, seeking to reflect a local vernacular, enhance, preserve, conserve the heritage assets, and just take consideration of those heritage assets in terms of design and impact and setting.
Councillor Croker.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at this in the round, as you approach the site, to me, one of the main features is the, I should call, overgrown Leylandii hedge. So my first question for officers is, in this process, should we approve, do we have any control over what happens to that hedge? Because the report issued by the developer, or proposed developer, talks about possibly taking 50% off the height, presumably to make the front garden of this proposed house more acceptable to use. My experience would suggest that would probably kill the trees anyway, which may be a good thing. But I'd be interested, do we have any control over that side of things? That's my first question. The second is more of a comment that if you compare the design that is being proposed with the Wells Cottage, one is angular and one is rounded, and I'd leave members to guess which is which. So in general, I'm not particularly happy with this, as well as the somewhat constrained plot, I think, for that area. And so I'm inclined to reject this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So in reference to your question about the Leylandii, there is a condition recommended. It's condition 6, which is a landscaping condition. So it looks to provide details on existing trees and planting, and then proposed landscaping measures as well. So it's asking for details to be submitted.
Any other member wishing to make a comment? Councillor Livingstone.
Yeah, I am also concerned about the impact on the conservation area. I noticed in policy 34, there's requirements that it should make a positive contribution to the character and distinctness of the area, and ensuring that development in conservation areas is consistent with the special character of those areas. It should also preserve and ensure clear legibility of local distinctive vernacular building forms and their settings, features, fabric materials. I cannot see this aligning with the design and the placements of the Wells houses along that road. So.
Okay, thank you.
I think we recognise that there is an impact on the conservation area, but there are other material considerations that outweigh that impact in regard to, the housing land supply, and that it is recognised that there is a neutral impact, but there are material considerations that outweigh that.
Any other member wishing to make a comment? Councillor Frankland, and I'll come to you in a moment. Councillor Trott.
Thank you, Chair. Just comments, really. Firstly, I do recognise that there will be, in the event of this going ahead, there would be perceived or real negative impacts on maybe local residents, and I heard the comments of the resident from Roundabout Cottage, but I do understand that's not in itself a planning decision-making factor. Regards the design, I think it is important that the design fits in, but personally I'm not generally of the mind that we have to replicate architecture and buildings that were built maybe 100 years ago. But it is, I feel, important that designs do reflect the character of the local area. I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Trott, sorry.
Could I just clarify what the officer was just saying? You mentioned material considerations. The material consideration is just the housing supply, because if that's it seems a fairly negligible difference it's going to make to the housing supply. But is that the only consideration you were thinking of?
That is the key one, Councillor Trott, and I think we recognise it makes a very small contribution to our overall land supply. Obviously, that balance has been in the context of the less than substantial at the lower end of the scale. So you're balancing two negligibles in a way, if you see what I mean. But recognise there is a balance there.
Councillor Vanderbilt.
And presumably that's an appeal issue, right?
Well, it's a decision for members today.
No, but if it is refused, then there is an appeal. That housing supply
Yes.
has a bearing on an appeal.
Yes, it's a significant material consideration that the council don't have a 5-year housing land supply, and it's not that we just don't have one, is that we have a very, very, very bad one. So you know that needs to be given significant weight, but equally we're in a conservation area here, so that also has significant weight. So it is a matter of judgment as to where it sits, and obviously officers have taken a view on that, and we provide you with a report as to how we've come to that conclusion. Thank you.
Councillor Vanderbilt.
Just to follow on the condition. You said that there'll be a landscape report. What happens if it says we're going to cut down 50% of the hedge? Yeah.
I think, you know, our landscape officer is never particularly keen on a land deal or something like that, but ultimately that would be a matter of assessment within a condition discharge. I think you would need a strong vegetative hedge, well, is that the right word, along that boundary, whatever that is, and that would be something we would seek to secure through the condition discharge process. What that looks like, I think, would be something we would engage our landscape officer in and have that discussion on, but you know, I think it's clear you need quite a robust boundary along there.
Any final comments from members? Councillor Trollope.
All right. Are there any other houses in that conservation area that have a, you know, this more sort of, how would you term it, replica of it? I mean, will it be the, you know, my understanding, I haven't really seen the photos between the two to do a direct comparison, but I mean, is it markedly different? And if it is markedly different, rounded versus more angular, are there other houses already in that newer style, if that makes sense? Or will it really be this, you know, sticking out as completely different to all of the other houses in that area?
I couldn't honestly say with confidence, Councillor Trollope, because it was the officers that went out on site. I haven't gone out on site myself, so I think you know, we consider there's a mix of units, but I wouldn't want to say this has got this style or this has got that style, because I simply don't know. So I'm sorry, I can't be of any more assistance with that question.
Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Chairman. I think I would like to propose a motion to refuse based on policy 34 and also the impact on the non-designated heritage asset and the fact that it's in front of the building line. Thank you.
You want to construct the wording of that motion? Well, I'll come to the okay, right. Do you have a seconder for that? Okay.
Can I just... Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Can I just clarify, do you mean the impact on the conservation area? Is that what you... Yeah. Of the Wells cottages. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Do you want, could you just repeat your proposed motion? Sorry.
Could you put your microphone in? Could you put your microphone? Sorry, and the conservation
You
area.
start again because
Yeah, start again. Right. A motion to refuse based on it's not compliant with policy 34 and the impact on the non-designated heritage asset and the conservation area, and it's also beyond the building line. And the benefit doesn't outweigh the harm.
Try and read it. So just to clarify, Councillor Lambert, so it's considered that it doesn't adhere to policy 34 of the Horsham District Planning Framework. It is harmful to the conservation area and the non-designated heritage assets, particularly the Wales cottages, and I assume you're concerned there's a character issue in terms of it's being beyond the building line and the benefit doesn't outweigh the harm.
I also don't believe it complies with policy 32 and 33, but I think 34 is the main one, isn't it?
do you want to add those two to this?
What does Emma
What are
think?
they?
Check what they are first, of course.
The design character ones, 32 and 33.
Oh, so they're both.
So they'd be
Yeah, it's all to do with design. I haven't got it in front of me because I'm not allowed to look it up now.
Yeah, I was just making sure it wasn't amenity matter because I think that would be unreasonable. But if you consider that they're contrary to those policies, I think that would fit in with the concerns that you've raised.
Just
Yes, those are the ones I've noted down, but of course I can't go off and look on my iPhone to check that that's what they were.
so, just so that members are clear on what we're voting on here, could you just read that out again, please? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but
So the concern is it does not adhere to policy 34 of the Horsham District Planning Framework with regard to the harm to the conservation area and the non-designated heritage assets, particularly the Wales cottages. It's beyond the building line and the benefits do not outweigh the harm. Also contrary to policies 32 and 33 of the Horsham District Planning Framework. Thank you.
okay, that's been seconded by Councillor Vickers. All those in favour of the motion, please show. All those against?
3 against
Any abstentions? Okay,
and 2 abstentions.
thank you. Therefore, the application, as per the motion, has been refused. Thank you. You're free to leave if you so wish, public speakers. Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 7, which is the DC 250430 at Hop Oast Park and Ride, Worthing Road, Horsham. This application is in the South Water North Ward and therefore the ward councillors are not able to vote. But please could the officers make the presentation?
Thank you, Chair. So this application seeks full planning permission for the change of use of an area of Hop Oast Park and Ride to outside storage for the purposes of storing the clean waste bins associated with future food waste services at the Hop Oast depot. There has been an addendum circulated for this item as well, and this speaks of a letter of representation that was received, which raised concerns about the loss of parking for Horsham Football Club and the impact on disabled and parent-child spaces. So just going through the slides, the application site, as defined by the red outline, is located to the west of Worthing Road, outside of any defined built-up area boundary. The site is therefore located within a countryside location in policy terms, albeit that it is part of an established area. And the site is located to the north of Hoppo's Depot, which is defined by the blue outline on that plan. So the site comprises the northwestern corner of Hoppost Park and Ride facility, as shown by the red rectangle. The site would operate in conjunction with Hoppost Depot, which is located to the south, and the wider Park and Ride facility would remain available for the purposes of parking. So the site plan here indicates the area of the site to be used for open storage, which would be defined by fencing. It would amount to the loss of 25 parking spaces in association with the Park and Ride, but supporting information has been provided which has demonstrated that even at peak use, this loss would not materially impact the function and accessibility of the Park and Ride facility. So here are the elevations showing the proposed fencing as well as the associated paraphernalia for the outside storage. And then here are some site photos showing the area of the site of the Park and Ride facility, which is proposed to be taken up for the purposes of outside storage. So the proposed development would support the strategic objectives for waste reduction in the county and would facilitate the introduction of food waste disposal within the district. The proposal would be within the boundaries of an established site and is considered to be of a scale and nature that would not significantly increase activity within the countryside. The development would be read in the context of the Hoppost Depot and waste and recycling facility and is therefore considered to result in limited harm to landscape character and visual amenity of the area. Whilst it is acknowledged that there would be a loss of parking resulting from it, the benefits arising from the development are considered to outweigh this limited harm. And for these reasons, the development is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions within Section 7 of the committee report. Thanks.
Thank you. We have one speaker this evening, and that is Elizabeth Williams, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors. So I'm here as the applicant to support the officer's recommendation to approve the planning application for the change of use of an area of Hoppost Park and Ride for storage of clean waste bins to serve food waste services at Hoppost Depot. As mentioned, the site is currently used as car parking, and the area of the storage is required to assist in facilitating the new commercial and domestic food waste collections from 25 and 26 respectively. The area of storage is functionally and physically well related to the existing depot to the south, which will enable it to be easily accessed. The area of storage will be associated with those food waste services and is required as the existing depot is at capacity, and there is an opportunity to provide this area of storage without expansion into the open countryside. The proposed bin storage area has been designed to accommodate 1,000 to 1,600 new waste bins at any one time, and will be delivered to site by articulated vehicles. They will then be collected and distributed by distribution vehicles, likely long wheelbase, medium-sized vans, and they'll be distributed throughout the district. No used bins will be returned or stored at the proposed storage area. The proposals, as mentioned, will result in a loss of 25 car parking spaces at the Park and Ride, and the transport statement submitted with the application has fully assessed the impact of this. The parking survey confirms that with the loss of those car parking spaces, the Park and Ride facility can comfortably accommodate typical weekday demand and the occasional peak demand during match days. We are also aware the club is working with others in the council to accommodate additional parking arrangements in the Horsham town area. So as demonstrated in the application and confirmed in the officer's report, proposals are in accordance with the relevant policies of the development plan and would enable the efficient continued operation of the food waste collection services in the district, which is a key public benefit. We would like to highlight that there are no objections from statutory consultees, and therefore would encourage you to support the officer's recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will open this up to debate from the members. Councillor Vickers.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is in my ward. Obviously, I won't be voting on this application, but I'd like to support the officer's recommendation. I support food waste collection service. The loss of 25 car parking spaces is not an issue at all during the week, and it usually isn't full. On match days, there are issues already with cars parking all over the place. So I do have some slight concerns, but I support the officer's recommendation and I'm happy to do so. Thank you.
Councillor Nandaroo.
Thank you, Chair. I've never used the park and ride, and I just wanted some sort of confirmation of how it works, because as I understand it, you park, get on the bus and you pay on the bus. So what we're providing then on match day certainly is a free car park. Seems to me to be a big loss of revenue, but it's only a point I'm making. I am supporting the application.
Just to clarify, that the park and ride is owned by the county council, not Horsham District Council. So, but it just as a point.
Any other? Councillor Croker, yes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm afraid I'm going to show my lack of diligence here, but to the west of the proposed site, there's a large green area. I'm just wondering why, if that was ever considered. I don't know whether the officer has any knowledge of that.
Well, I don't know the answer. I don't know if any other members do, but I don't know the answer. Obviously, we've got this proposal which we've assessed, so which is facilitated by the fact that county own the land.
Councillor Vickers, and I'll come to you in a moment.
Chairman, I might be wrong, but my understanding is that piece of land is privately owned. It's not in the ownership of either county or Horsham.
Thank you. Councillor Trollope.
Sorry, I will speak. My question is no longer needs to be asked. So.
Thank you. Any other councillor wishing to comment on this? Okay, therefore I will go to the vote, and to approve planning permission subject to the appropriate conditions as per the committee report. All those in favour, please show. All those against?
None against?
Any abstentions?
None.
No. Therefore, the application has been approved. Thank you very much.
Those numbers don't.
Sorry?
No, I think it was more than that.
I should have moved to 13, I think.
Sorry. Thank you. We're just clarifying the vote there.
I'm just muddling things up.
Thank you. Okay, no urgent business for me, and I'd like to thank the officers and members for your contribution this evening, and wish you all a safe journey home. And at 18:29, I bring the meeting of the Planning Committee to close. Thank you.